Welcome back to Up the Villa and welcome to Tactical Look, an in-depth tactical analysis session on Liverpool and Aston Villa ahead of our game at Anfield on Saturday. On today's show, we're going to be going to the tactical pad. We're going to be going to have a look at key individual performers for Liverpool with their heat maps. We're going to go and have a look at some of the data. We're going to have a look at the strengths and weaknesses of this Liverpool side. And we're also going to have a mashup tactically of two teams together. What can we expect? Let's get straight on in there then, and let's have a look at Liverpool so far this season. You've got to be a bit careful, really, because Liverpool have got very, very good players. They've got epic players. Wirtz, Ekitike, Isak, Kirkes, Szoboszlai, Salah, Van Dijk. Very, very good team. But right now, it's disjointed, it's lacking confidence, and they're gradually having more and more problems creep into most performances. So you've got to understand where is the problem? What's the problem with this side? And I believe that it's slightly tactically and slightly roles of individual players not quite grasping maybe what Arne Slot wants them to do. And then with the weaknesses that are coming, it's a bit of a struggle. So here's the lineup that faced Brentford, the team that lost to Brentford. And for me personally, the problems are coming slightly with the fullbacks, slightly with Wirtz, and maybe that midfield three not combining and looking as fluid and as solid and as creatively sound as it was last year. Defensively, all over the show, especially Konate this season. Looks like he's running in concrete boots, not tracking runners, looking really slow. But I think the makeup of the fullbacks is really interesting. I think Kirkes' role probably isn't quite as comfortable as what Kirkes would like. And I think that's a massive factor. Kirkes so far this season, he's inverting quite a lot, and he did invert for Bournemouth. But if we look at Kirkes last season, where was he strong? He was strong getting into those attacking areas, and we're not really seeing that as much so far this season. At right back, we've got slight problems. Frimpong's been injured quite a lot, not really hit the ground running. Connor Bradley's in there, but they miss Trent. And if you're looking at that right-hand side, Trent, when he picked up the ball and was pinging passes, being creative, being progressive, they don't have that on the right-hand side. So left and right fullbacks are a bit of an issue. Centrally, Wirtz is a bit of a problem because he's finding it very difficult central. Now, you've got to look at Morgan Rogers, for example. In the Premier League, it is so difficult to be creative when you have to be central. Teams and the Premier League midfielders are so solid and so defensively sound that you don't get 2 seconds on the ball. It has got to be quick, sharp, quick, incisive decision-making. And it's kind of not coming off for Wirtz. Gakpo I really rate coming inside. He's lethal in and around these areas. And Salah is a wonderful player, but this season not quite at the level that he has been. Notice against Brentford, he was kind of playing a lot more central, pressing in the front too. So is that a little tactical shift that we can expect this season? But the midfield three, not quite as strong. So my observations of the wide areas kind of start when I'm looking at the heat maps. Now, this was Kirkes for Bournemouth. And the one thing that you'll notice is that he gets into that area through there. This was Kirkes' danger zone last season. Getting to that byline, putting them crosses in, being a massive threat. You can see that he was operating. I mean, this picture, it does look a bit rude, but he was operating in that area. You can see that he does invert inside those areas, but it's that byline that he was getting to. Now, if we compare him to his time at Liverpool, what you can see is that, yes, he's heavy in that area where I think Arne Slot wants him to be comfortable. But I actually don't think that's his game. For me, his game is attacking this zone through here. And as we can see so far from the two different variations, that he's not able to do that in a Liverpool shirt. Now, Connor Bradley, what you get with him at right back is, I think he's defensively solid. But I think going forward, you lose a little bit of quality the further you go forward. Quite comfortable in here. I imagine Salah likes to then occupy that space and invert slightly. But like I mentioned, they're missing Trent. I mean, look at Trent. He was so dominant in that area. So dominant in that area as well. And when you're looking at the makeup of two different teams, you can clearly see that that element is something that they really lack at this moment in time. Now, I've spoke about Wirtz. Centrally, he's finding it difficult. But I actually think Wirtz didn't play in this position for Leverkusen. If you look at Wirtz's heat map, he started on the left-hand side. He started on the left and he drifted infield. That's where he did a lot of his damage. And you can see that, his heat map's all over the pitch, isn't it? But the most dominant area is starting on that left-hand side. And for Liverpool so far this season, we can see that a lot of his actions are actually very central. And it's not as red on that left-hand side. So for me, I think there's not a recruitment issue there, but I think what Arne Slot has recruited for, I don't actually feel like he's getting the best out of the players that he's bought. And I think positionally, there needs to be a little bit of a switch up to get players playing in their most comfortable areas. So that would probably be one of my observations. Now, I think, what is he going to try and do against Aston Villa? I may sense he might try and go a tad more pragmatic. And I mentioned on our Villa preview that I actually feel like we're not as chaotic as some teams that they've come up against. Will that suit Liverpool? I don't know, but we do have elements that, even though we're quite structurally sound and Emery doesn't like chaos, tactically we can implement chaos. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that in a second. But the chaos that Liverpool are not very good at dealing with is a direct nature of a team. So we can see Coyote's long throw into the 18-yard box, flick on, and Atara is able to score from this action. And you've just got to put it on them. I think the big thing for Villa is to stick it on this Liverpool team and see how they react. Put them in really difficult situations, make it demanding on Liverpool, make them think, we're in a right pickle here against this team, because they're well drilled, well organised. How do we get out? But the areas that they are very good in, and something that is always going to be there with this Liverpool side, is creative vibes on the edge of the 18-yard box. This is something that, and the areas that they get into, you can see here now, they've got into a really strong position. There's runners that they're tricky, they're nimble, they've got that little fluid flexibility. These areas are bad areas to get into, in my opinion, against this Liverpool side. I think you want to try and avoid this as much as possible. Again, you can see them camped in, and Wirtz is on the ball centrally, looking to pick out Ekitike. We get the little flick, and then Wirtz is able to follow it up. But I think the big makeup that you can notice a bit about their team, Connor Bradley, you've got width on that left-hand side, Szoboszlai holding, Curtis Jones. So they've committed a lot of players forward, which then means win the ball, nick it. And you're in that setup there where they've got two at the back here now. So can you exploit that two at the back, three at the back, whenever they get into those little game state moments, which we were able to do really well against Manchester City, and that we're able to do really good against most teams that we get into those situations. This is something I think they've got to do a lot more of. I think the overlap of Kirkes here And I really like this element of tactical play, because you can see now that they're in a bit of a problem, because who does he go with? And he's got a big problem. They've not doubled up, and you need to double up in this situation, because he can either slip in Kirkes, or this player can just move across a little bit, which will open more space for Gakpo. So they they were getting into like some semi-decent positions against Brentford. And again, you've got to make sure you're watching out for these situations. But the areas for me where they are really weak in is distances and getting into those areas where you can find that little bit of space, and then you've got runners to run off this Liverpool team. They are not very good this season at dealing with this. Konate, Van Dijk running this time. How many times this season have you seen Van Dijk and Konate running back to their own goal? It's happening like 3 or 4 times a game. So Villa are very good in these situations. We've got Damsgaard getting on the ball. Picture this as Morgan Rogers or another creative player. I don't know, someone like Onana if he's progressed a little bit further forward. So these are the situations that we really want to get into. And again, midfielders, that's your midfield three. And there's a gap. This little gap here, this little danger zone is something that I would want Villa to be able to get into. Bypass that midfield three. And when I was talking about earlier that their midfield three isn't as strong as last season, this is why. And again, it's not coming off for them. They're getting into comfortable zones where you're thinking, okay, we're knocking it about nicely in central midfield. Ekitike, Szoboszlai, Wirtz, they lose the ball, and then 1, 2, 3, all on the opposite side of the Liverpool midfield three. There's your front three, and you can see this facial expression here. This player here, he knows. He's thinking, we're done for. They've turned us over, and they're able to pick out the spare man, find space, and then you can just see off shot here, you've got Kevin Schade, who's in a foot race now. And in my opinion, there's only one winner. Like I say, Konate's with concrete boots on. He's slow as anything this season. So turn them over. We've got Kirkes as well, kind of getting into that central zone at the same time. So turn the team over, be physical in central midfield, and you get a lot of joy against this Liverpool side. Again, space on that left-hand side channel. Can you get in and around the fullbacks? I mean, I said 2 or 3 times that this Liverpool team are running in a different direction. Well, again, we're running in a different direction. We're running straight to goal again. So can you turn them over? Can you find space? Can you stretch this Liverpool side? And I think it's a little bit harsh when I'm hearing about Slot saying, teams have got a way of playing against us, and maybe it's a bit more direct. I don't actually sometimes think that it is direct, really. I mean, I'm thinking if you pump a ball into a channel and you're exposing a team that are playing 3 or 4 or 2 at the back and they're in that situation, that's not route one. Like, long throws are route one. Like, goalkeepers just punting it forward, that's route one. But hitting it into a channel tactically to find space, I think that's completely different. And again, the final one, we've got Damsgaard again, who's just in acres of space. Where's the midfield? There's the midfield, really, inside that zone again. So you can really see that the problems that this Liverpool side are really getting into this season as well. So those are the situations that I think we've really got to make sure we're able to exploit. But at the same time, this Liverpool team are doing things really well. If we have a look at the data, we can see that so far this season, Liverpool have had an XG of 16.11 and scored 16 goals. So they're pretty fair with what they're actually doing. They're not really outscoring the goals that they've scored. Now, this is where it gets interesting. And when you can look at it and go, oh, they've lost 4 in a row, we should go there and win. Look at the underlying numbers behind some of these performances. And this is a big one for me. They've had 140 shots on goal, and that is the league highest, and 41 shots on target, goal conversion rate of 11.43%. They're averaging 62.6% possession, which is the league's highest. Pass success rate of 84.9%. Villa are at 85.6%. Highest final third passes, 1,434. And they have 76.9%, which is the second highest accuracy. Villa are fifth for passes into the final third with 1,115 and fifth with the percentage of accuracy of 73.1. They rank third for crosses in the league with 147, 14 goals conceded with an XG of 12.01, shots on the Liverpool goal 34. And this is an interesting stat, Villa fans. Villa have had 28 shots on our goal, and that is the third best. So I think that's pretty good, really. It shows that we're defending pretty well. Liverpool have conceded 6 goals from set pieces. Villa have conceded 4. And Villa have been fouled the most so far this season with 116 fouls. So I find that quite interesting as well. Right, so we're going to do something a little bit different on this episode, and we're going to highlight one player, and I might do this for the rest of the season now on these tactical looks. One player that I really like from the opposition team. And I'm going to kick it off with my first one, and probably one of my favourite players in the Premier League at the minute, Ekitike. I absolutely love him. He's my type of player. Like Walter Marde, Ekitike, long, languid, silky touch, technique, techie, finishers. Very, very good players. And here we can see Ekitike's touches so far this season. Kind of on that left-hand side a little bit, but a lot of touches in and around the 18-yard box. We can see here now that this is his heat zone as well. So again, heavy on that left-hand side. And then finally, we've got his pass map so far this season and linking up, especially on that left-hand side. But he's a player that I just think is quality. And he, in my opinion, he should be leading the line for Liverpool, even when Isak is fit, because right now I think he's banging form. I think he's probably been one of their best players, and he's a player that I really, really rate and like. Right, Villa lineup. What we're going to go with from a Villa point of view? Well, here's one that I've done earlier, and this is my Aston Villa lineup to face Liverpool. Martinez, Digne, Pau, Konsa, Cash, Onana, Kamara, Rodgers left, Gesson right, McGinn, and Watkins. So that is my lineup, and combined together, this is what it looks like. So I actually kind of feel like Liverpool might go a little bit more pragmatic in this game. I think Robertson could start maybe. I also feel like McAllister could come in. Gravenberch, is he fit? Can he come in? But the problem they've got is it's one player out of a combination that worked well, isn't it? Because if Gravenberch is back, which you'd imagine he'll go into that holding role there, Szoboszlai will go more to that left-hand side where I think he's comfortable. Then you've still got Wirtz, but then it means that McAllister can't play. So Curtis Jones can't play. So whatever the combo, I just feel like it's about finding that correct balance. So let's, for example, think he is back, and it could look a little bit more like that. So the big areas that Villa are going to have to defend well is Gakpo. I think it's important that Gesson comes and covers and supports Gakpo. We saw in one of those images that they didn't bother to do that, and you're going to have big problems. Why do I think Robertson? I just think stability. I think they're conceding goals, and maybe not a back to basics because they're too good to go back to basics, but maybe that approach is correct for them. And I think that's probably how they're going to line up. So the areas that I think Villa have got to make sure we are doing really well is winning the midfield battle, making sure that we are dominant, keeping hold of the ball, being able to progressively play through this Liverpool team, break through the lines, make sure we find in Rodgers. Can we find McGinn? Can McGinn press really well? Can he rat around? And I think when we can drop into this sort of shape, and then McGinn can obviously be that number 10 pressing or dropping there is important. Gesson, I think physically, I think whether it's Kirkes or Robertson will probably do really well there. And I think Villa can't go as chaotic as what some teams have done because that's just not what we are. But we can set those chaotic traps of being aggressive, putting the ball into really areas where we're having to stretch, say, Connor Bradley to come in, get physical with him, get Digne running off Salah, and just being able to find those channels because they are going to get into that shape, that shape that, they're going to be quite dominant, getting into these zones, etc. They may leave that little two at the back situation and we're having to defend. But can we pin and can we get into those key areas? I think that sort of channel, stretching Konate, get that ball and put it in behind Konate. It's so important that we do it. And I think, a lot of you will have known that this is some of the areas that are highlighted against Man City, but it's similar zones. These are the areas where, and especially that area in and around that midfield three, you saw the gap between defence and midfield, bypass it. And we've got players who are just absolutely sensational in those areas. So we have got all of the tools to beat this Liverpool team. We can pose them big problems. Why? Because we can take it to them with the ball, come and press us. We want you to come on to us. Boom, hit the channels, find the runners, hold it up, get your runners running off. But I do think Villa have just got to make sure we are structurally quite solid and clean with the ball. And yes, then we've got players like Marlon, who I think could be very dangerous in this game as well. So I see the game being quite tactical, quite not a lot going on at the start of it. I think it'll be quite edgy maybe, but I think Villa can grow into this game. And I do believe that we can really pose massive problems. We have got a long throw in Digne that we saw against Manchester City. Set pieces, we're very good on the first one. We have that main one that we can do. Again, can we exploit that? And the big player in this game for me is Ollie Watkins, because we know Ollie Watkins generally does run Van Dijk ragged. I don't think Van Dijk likes playing against Watkins because he doesn't give him a minute's peace. And I think in this game, it's exactly the same. So shut down Wirtz. Don't let him have time on the ball. Make it as difficult for him as possible. Tight areas. Ekitike, love him. So he's going to be very techie in and around the 18-yard box. Szoboszlai is Liverpool's best player for me. Don't let Gakpo cut inside. Make sure you're defending Salah really well and just try and exploit that defense for me. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. Tactical look at Villa, Liverpool. I feel like I've gone through absolutely everything that I wanted to highlight. So if you're a Villa fan and you're enjoying this content, subscribe, smash the likes. Liverpool fans, I get a lot of good feedback on these episodes that fans really like them and I find them insightful. So subscribe. We've got lots of Liverpool content coming during the week as well. So cheers everyone for watching. Up the Villa.